From calculating trajectories by hand to leading modern space missions, how have women shaped STEM across generations? Today, we're talking about women in STEM then and now, from hidden figures to Artemis. In 1962, NASA had a problem. John Glenn was about to become the first American to orbit Earth, and the calculations that would get him there had been programmed into a brand new computer. But Glenn refused to launch until one person verified those numbers by hand. "Get the girl," he said. That girl was Katherine Johnson, a black mathematician working in NASA's Segregated West Area Computing Unit, and her hand-calculated confirmation meant everything stood or fell on her work. Fast forward to April 2026, and Christina Koch becomes the first woman to fly around the moon aboard the Artemis II mission, her electrical engineering expertise and spacewalking records carrying her 252,756 miles from Earth. These two moments sit at opposite ends of a 64-year journey that tells us something crucial about progress, visibility, and why the stories we tell in film still matter for the future we're building. Katherine Johnson's story is the one everyone knows now, thanks to the 2016 film that rescued these women from historical obscurity. She calculated the trajectories that made the Mercury program possible and worked on the Apollo missions and Space Shuttle program. But when she started at Langley Research Center in 1953, she wasn't celebrated for her mathematical precision. She was segregated into the West Area Computing Division with other black women, forced to use separate bathrooms and eat in separate cafeterias, even as her work was essential to America's space program. Dorothy Vaughan became an expert in Fortran programming, training younger women as NASA's technology evolved. Mary Jackson became the first black female engineer at NASA, but only after getting special permission from the city of Hampton to attend college courses held in segregated classrooms. Both women were told their value lay in supporting roles, helping the real, white male engineers do their work. And yet, both refused to be confined to those boxes. When she couldn't climb into management without hitting a ceiling made of racism and sexism, Jackson pivoted to become the federal women's program manager at Langley, spending decades fighting to impact the hiring and promotion of the next generation. These women didn't break barriers because they were exceptional, though they were. They broke barriers because they had to keep showing up day after day, proving their competence in an institution actively hostile to their presence. NASA needed them, the space program depended on them, and they were still treated as less than. More than 60 years later, we celebrate Christina Koch's achievement, and rightfully so. She holds the record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman at 328 days on the International Space Station and conducted the first all-female spacewalk. She's a role model in the fullest sense. But when we look at the broader STEM landscape, the progress looks a lot less dramatic. Women now make up roughly 28% of the STEM workforce in the United States. That's nearly unchanged in over 2 decades. In computer science specifically, women represent just over 21% of bachelor's degree recipients. The percentage of black women in STEM remains at 0.3%, despite making up 4% of the overall population. Those numbers don't feel like progress. They feel like stagnation with better PR. The barriers have shape-shifted. In the 1960s, black women at NASA faced explicit segregation. Today, the segregation is structural. It hides in funding gaps for schools in majority black neighborhoods, in hiring practices that unconsciously favor candidates from prestigious universities, in workplace cultures that reward performative excellence over actual belonging. The obstacles are more insidious now precisely because they're less visible, baked into systems that can claim to be neutral, even as they systematically exclude. Here's where the Hidden Figures film becomes relevant in ways that go beyond nostalgia. When it premiered in 2016, it made Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson impossible to ignore. President Obama awarded Johnson the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Congress awarded all 3 women the Congressional Gold Medal. NASA renamed a building in Mary Jackson's honor. None of that would have happened without the film bringing their stories into the cultural mainstream. And yes, that's powerful. Young black girls who see Katherine Johnson solving equations on screen might imagine themselves as mathematicians. Young women who learn about Mary Jackson's fight to become an engineer might feel less alone in their own STEM programs. Studies show that exposure to role models in STEM increases students' belief in their own ability to succeed in technical fields, particularly for girls and students of color. But visibility can also be a trap. When we celebrate the exception, we risk making it seem like the problem has been solved. Christina Koch is a triumph. She's also one woman on one mission, selected from a pool where Black women continue to be profoundly underrepresented. Her presence is inspiring, but it doesn't dismantle the systemic barriers keeping 99.7% of Black women out of STEM. The truth Katherine Johnson proved in 1962 remains underabsorbed. Women, and particularly Black women, are perfectly capable of doing the highest levels of technical and scientific work when given the chance. What's changed is not women's ability or drive, it's the acknowledgement, however incomplete, that their presence matters, and that their absence has been a loss for science itself. Christina Koch, flying to the moon 64 years after John Glenn's historic orbit, is meaningful precisely because it shouldn't be remarkable. Films like Hidden Figures serve a crucial purpose in this moment. They remind us that women have always belonged in STEM, that their exclusion was never about ability, but about access and recognition. They make it harder to pretend the problem doesn't exist. The next phase of this work requires more than visibility. It requires investment in education, workplace cultures that value diverse perspectives, and institutions willing to dismantle practices that maintain the status quo. Katherine Johnson showed us what brilliance looks like when it's finally given room to breathe. Christina Koch is showing us what's possible when those doors begin to open. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here, we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.